Hello, today I'm revisiting a project I did around a year ago when I painted this squirrel and created a bas-relief version of it. During that process I ended up with masked areas which I reused to do the first stage of this project, which was separating parts that will be animated onto their own layers. I want to create several layered texture types, including normal map and textures for physically based rendering, which I will then export as a layered Photoshop format or PSD file, so that I can animate it in Moho and use it in 3D applications with dynamic lighting. This time-lapse shows me correcting layers I have separated from the original illustration with transparency masks, and making sure they will look right if they are animated as a 2D rigged puppet. I resized the document to 1200 pixels wide for the import of layers into Laigter. This program can get a bit slow using bigger images, especially if there are a lot of layers. I also put a number at the end of each layer to help with organising the layer order in Laigter. I used the export multiple layers script to speed up the export of separate PNG file format image layers that I needed for Laigter. First, I just imported one image into the program and set the sliders for the normal map settings, because once that is done, any that are imported into the program after will inherit the same values. Once the images are in Laigter, I reorganise them to display in the correct order. The layer order is opposite to the way it works in Krita. Once I had selected them all and previewed them, I exported the normal maps from Laigter. I noticed that if I had added more masks for some of the layers, like the body and the face, that I could improve on the base normal maps, so I did this process a few times as I needed to, but for the masks I hid all the other layers before using the export multiple layers in Krita. I imported the main normal map layers as multiple layers into Krita and reordered them into a group. I imported the extra maps I had made for the face and the body into Krita and put them above the correct layers. The layer mode for combining normal maps is useful for blending normal map textures. I made sure all of the normal map layers had the correct transparency masks, which I had made using the colour layers I'd masked earlier. Then I flattened the layers in turn. This process of exporting and importing and editing normal maps took a while, as I decided which layers to improve by adding more masks as I went on. I renamed the normal map layers to match the layers in the colour group. I also used Sprite Illuminator to edit the normal map layers. Sprite Illuminator is quite useful for creating extra bevel and enhancing effects, as well as softening edges of normal map shapes together and adding textures. I had to add more layers for the switch layers in Moho for the opened and closed eyes, and I kept editing the normal maps until I was happier with them. You can also add normal map textures in Krita by using the combined normal map layer mode and transparency masks. This can give more control over the effect in a non-destructive way if you need to be precise and test different looks. Now I have layers and groups for the base colour, normal map and the materials that will make up the ORM texture map, the Ambient Occlusion, the Roughness and the Metal map. To make the Ambient Occlusion I used a Fong Bump map filter on the combined normal map textures above a duplicate colour base group. Then I adjusted the values until it looks like Ambient Occlusion. To apply the changes to each layer, I hid all of the layers underneath that filter and then showed them one by one, whilst creating a new layer from visible for each layer in turn and putting them into a group. The metal group was easy. Black is no metal and white is metal. On this character only the buttons are going to have metal, so I needed to create a layer for the body and then draw in the buttons, which are all white. The rest of the layers can be served by using a layer filled with black underneath that. To make the roughness layers, I duplicated the colour group and added a desaturate filter mask to each layer, then adjusted the levels of each layer with levels filter mask to represent how rough or shiny I wanted them. White is 100% rough and black is the opposite. The shinier you want something, the darker the values have to be, and the rougher you want something, the paler they have to be. For some things, like the nose, I added a layer above the head and set it to multiply, then coloured in the nose to look darker before merging the layers. Once I had all of the material groups completed, I put them in a group and set the groups for each material to use different colour channels. I did this by right-clicking each group and changing the layer properties. For the AO group, I set it to use the red colour channel and alpha. For the roughness group, I set it to use the green channel and alpha. And for the metal group, I set it to use blue channel and alpha. Once set to each colour channel, they mix together to create the ORM texture. I have to hide and then show each of the layers one by one in the material group layers, then create a new layer from visible for each part of the character. So here I have hidden all of the layers in each group, except the back scarf. Now I will create a new group layer and put that outside and call it ORM. I can right click and say new layer from visible, and then this can go in that group. For each layer I create, I will then have to scroll down to the colour, find the layer for that, control click creates a mask around it, and then I will add a new transparency mask. If I then right click and say flatten layer, that will remove the green background. So I'm going to have to do this for each layer in turn, and that will take a while, so I will see you in the next section. Now that I've got a group for the ORM texture maps, the normal texture maps, and the base colour textures, I can export this as a Photoshop file, which can then be imported into Moho. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.